So this morning was about responsibility, being accountable for things we do. And Good morning, my name is Latasha Newman, and I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, born and raised. So a little bit about my background is that I once was not in a good space, and I made bad decisions, which ended me up in prison and away from my family.
Hey, got these spotlights looking good, girl. Where the red carpet? Wow, my name is Savannah, but I go by Zelda. And I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 5. The impact that the streets had on me before I made it to Out for Justice, it's horrible. I ain't even gonna lie. Me personally, I don't like help. I'm so used to doing everything on my own. So when somebody try to help me, I look at it you feel me? Oh, what you trying to give me some pity or something like that? I'm basically, I don't like help. So I wasn't ready. I became a member, but it was I stayed away for real. You get what I'm saying? Because I still wanted to sell drugs. I still wanted to go outside with the homies. Even though I wanted more, I wasn't ready to push for more, within myself, for me and mine. I was too worried about running the streets, being seen, spotlight. That's just me. What? Spotlight? Oh, I'm there. Now it's I just look at it that's not where I want to be at. But do I want to help everybody that, you feel me, I done left back there? Absolutely. I feel like I can make a difference. I know I can. I ain't gonna say I feel like I know I can.
So Out for Justice is a member-led organization. It is made up of individuals who are directly and indirectly impacted by the criminal legal system. We are the community that we serve. So we are the voice of the underserved, the oppressed. We are that voice. And so we are historically led by Black women who are formerly incarcerated. And our goal is really to create policies through legislation and other systems to remove barriers to make so that individuals who are transitioning from incarceration have a much smoother opportunity to do so.
And my breakthrough came, and then I was allowed to have supervisors with them. That went on for about a year. And then as I started to progress, I started to tap more into these resources and people that, was willing to help me and did help me. And, I just surrendered, I gave in. I just knew that my children needed me, So it feels good now. Out for Justice came and I tapped into their program, and I took advantage of the things they offered, like therapy and treatment, the housing.
So as Black people in America, we are predisposed to a number of things that create additional disadvantages for us, right? And what's important to understand is that we all have traumas. We all have different situations in our history and our past that have created and shaped the way we are, how we think, how we see the world. And so when you think about just in general, all of the trauma that an individual might have on a human perspective, and then you think about what it means to be incarcerated or to be behind a wall and behind a cage, and then what that does and adds to the trauma that you may have already had. Our goal at Out for Justice is really to identify how we can lessen those traumas, how we can provide the support, the coping mechanisms, the self-regulation that is needed in order to be able to function but also to combat some of the traumatic experiences that we have all had, unfortunately.
As a juvenile, I had my father. My mother was a stone cold alcoholic, so she was there, but she wasn't. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's where a lot of my anger issues came from. Like, my mother being an alcoholic, not having a relationship with her. But for the most part, like my father. So when my dad died, it was like it took a big part of me. You get what I'm saying? Like, I was depressed and traumatized for like the first 5 years of his death. Like, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to go on. Like, nothing mattered. Like, I started speaking to my little brother. I walked right past him like I never even met him. Like, I went through a lot when my dad died. Like, because I felt like he was all I had. Like, regardless of whether I was right or wrong, like, my father was there. Like, he never turned his back on me. Never forgot about me. Like, all of the above.
There's a book that Oprah Winfrey wrote with another individual. So one of the main points of the book is talking about individuals and trauma. And it talks about things that every person needs. Nature, so you need to be around and being able to go outside and enjoy and experience what it is to be in nature. Every person needs to belong. They need to feel like they belong somewhere and they're a part of a group. And so that could look like being in a sorority, being at a church, being among friends and family. The other thing that they mention is having music or drums or rhythmic sound, right? So that could be, sound meditation. It could be music and listening to music or playing music. And then the last thing is medicine and that could be, natural remedies or homeopathic remedies, or it could be, manufactured pharmaceuticals. So when you think about when an individual is incarcerated, all of those things are stripped away. You don't have access to nature. You're not able to go outside. You're not able to have access to the things that help you regulate and soothe yourself so that you can deal with the stressors in everyday life.
The last few years at Out for Justice, particularly in 2020, we were given the ability to get a substantial amount of funding that would stabilize the organization and provide us an opportunity to build and grow and think big about what we did well, what we did not do well, and formalize this organization based on about a 6-month strategic plan. And so in that plan, we identified what the 4 areas of focus would be for the organization moving forward. So that's our bail and legal work, that is our policy and research work, our rapid response needs to community, and lastly, our voting and civic engagement work.
My name is Tanya Hayes. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I've been raised here in Baltimore, Maryland. Been here all my life. Well, I was incarcerated and it wasn't good. And from there, the jail I was in, they wasn't in good standards. I just basically just had to stay prayed up. We was in a male jail on the 5th floor, and we couldn't go anywhere outside or do anything. It was always crowded. It was a point in time during the summertime where as though they didn't have running water. We couldn't use the bathroom. And how we would cook, we would have to use the mop room area to get our hot water. And so it was a lot of fights going on in there. God, mold me and transform me to do inspirational group inside the jail. And that's where, things, start to come a little calmer and things like that. Even whereas though the security guards at the jail would, when it was a breakout for a fight or something, they'd come to me and for me to calm things down and stuff like that.
Given that the focus of this organization is grassroots organizing, taking formerly and currently incarcerated women and men and young people, and providing this safety net around them, this community around them, and this community around us, quite frankly, and engaging in how do we navigate agencies How do we lead policy campaigns? How do we demand the best of our community? How do we tap into our best selves? And how do we ensure that the world respects us as such, given that we've had some challenges in our life? What we realized is that women were leading the organization for the last 10 years. However, we hadn't focused particularly on the needs of women. And we understood that women, the incarceration rate for women had been increasing over the years, and women desperately needed support, particularly in a place like Maryland, and more in a condensed place like Baltimore. We found that women were not getting the types of support they needed. And so what investment in grassroots Black-led organizing looked like was that we were able to think about what women needed coming out of these prisons and jails and attack it on every level, from a policy perspective to a more direct service perspective. And what we understood was that we were going to make and ensure, and we still will ensure, that the state of Maryland provides an adequate pre-release facility for our women.
I would ask that they please open up an intake and a pre-release center. It's not a safe place. It's not a safe place at all. I have seen women held down, getting their drugs and their medicine taken from them, and been beat up. They gang on one person, and whatever the case may be, trying to take things. So I've seen robbery. I seen people got stabbed. I seen people OD. I seen it all.
There's not enough. We suffer from not being accounted for. There's so many resources available to men. Often with women, even housing becomes an issue because they can't be in the same place with the other men for various reasons. However, we don't have the resources for housing that we need, or resources for job training and education, and also reunifying with our family.
In the state of Maryland, there is currently not one facility that is gender specific for women in their transition. So no pre-release center exists currently in the state of Maryland. And so Out for Justice has been championing this cause of a gender equity pre-release center for women. And we've done that in a number of ways. We started with opportunities in providing reentry resources, but at the higher level this needs to be created. And so we have worked as a part of a coalition called the Women's Pre-Release Coalition to get legislation passed that mandated that the state of Maryland create and operate and establish a women's pre-release center. We were successful in passing that legislation to ensure that the state of Maryland does so. We are still on that fight because even though it's mandated, funds have not necessarily been allocated to ensure that gets done. So the fight continues, and we're relentless. We're not giving up.
But now we also understand and are confident in ourselves as formerly incarcerated women to know that we are best to lead that as well. And that we can lead that in a holistic way, in a way that ensures that our children are safe, in a way that taps into our mental health, in a way that taps into our economic mobility, in a way that ensures that we have a community, we are building a community around ourselves. And so that's what the next the next 5 years or more looks like. It looks like an organization that supports men, young people, but also has a specific focus in women coming out of prison and jail.
So I did not feel emotionally supported upon release. I had minimum resources. I didn't have a lot of support. You know what's crazy? I rush home, when I get off of work, I rush home just to come here and like cook. I don't know. Malik, you okay? I don't know another way of living. Like, I just want to live for them. I thought I could make it in this world alone. That's the one thing I regret thinking. And so my mom got sick actually from working She caught asbestos. And so when she died, my world just spiraled out of control. I had hit my second kid by then. And so all my past traumas and pain began to show up. I started self-medicating, and it wasn't until I lost custody of my children that I knew I had an actual problem, that I needed some professional help. And I started to tap into these resources and follow up with programs and organizations that help people like myself.
I didn't have any really support. I had family support, but my family was out of state. So inward support, no, I was the only one to support myself, and I had to be the leader for my son, who was also incarcerated of the same situation. So I felt that I had to be this leader person to show him what you should and what you should not do. And so on my point of release, thank God, when I went to Jessup, I stayed there maybe a couple of months. And then when I went up for my hearing, I got immediately released, thank God. And on my way home, I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have no family to go home to. A friend from in jail that I met came and got me from Jessup and allowed me to stay at her home for a couple of months. Once my daughter got on her feet and stuff like that, I was able to transition and move with her. Out for Justice supported me with expunging my record, because I'm able to be expunged now. They dropped everything. They helped me with furniture. They helped me with my business plan. They helping me with opening up, not being shy. And I'm already a bold person, but they pushed that out of me. And I love that a lot. I came to grow with them, and it's like a sisterhood. You know, it's an organization, but it's more like a sisterhood.
Wow, Miss MJ is the rapid response coordinator for Out for Justice. Woohoo! That's what I call, like, when I'm going through a lot. Like, I would even get emotional, like, be crying all over the phone. I don't care. Like, that's just how I feel. Like, but that's the vibe that I get from her, like that sisterly. I just love you so much. Like, this is what you're gonna do. This is how we gonna get it done. Where I am right now is like nowhere where I wanna be. You get what I'm saying? Like, I still have a lot more work to do. Like, so, I mean, I feel like I have the time. Like, I don't wanna rush anything and then I mess something up. You know what I'm saying? Because I get frustrated a lot. I ain't gonna lie. My mind's saying about this big. Like, listen now. Today's a beautiful day. But still, I'm nowhere where I want to be at. But I'm going to get there, like, because the sky is the limit. I do want to go back and do a couple different more certifications. I do want to get my CNA GNA again. I do miss it because, like I said before, like, you never know the impact that you have on a person's life when you feel me, like, you give them companionship, like, and you feel me, like, you take care of them, like, you build a bond with them, like, the more you come in there, like, and me personally, like, I love old people, real stuff. I ain't had no grandparents, so it just makes me feel good. Like, all right, grandma, you better go in now.
Anyone who's coming home has wonderful expectations. They have hopes and dreams that they place on themselves, and equally loved ones sometimes place those same high expectations and measures on them. But the reality of returning home is not so cookie cutter. You can't put it into a box. You have to rebuild your life, essentially. You have to get your identification. Who are you now? You're not a DOC number, but now you have to go back to getting your driver's license. And sometimes you got to take the test over again. And you have to get your social security card and birth certificate. You have to get medical insurance. You have to make appointments with a therapist to address maybe trauma that you face by being away from your family for so long. And it doesn't, some days are up, some days are down. It's filled with frustrations. It's filled with you putting a timetable on yourself to have certain milestones checked off. And sometimes our family and loved ones don't understand that you could be having a good day, you could be on a roll, doing things you need to do. And then sometimes you got to sit down for a moment because it may feel overwhelming. It may feel like things aren't happening the way you want them to. Maybe you're facing a barrier to a job. Me, myself, I went on so many interviews, aced interviews. They appreciated my credentials. And then when my background check came, they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't offer you this position," even though they had already offered it to me. And so those kind of hardships you face, you just don't prepare for that. And sometimes our loved ones, they want to help, they want to offer support. Sometimes it's financial, but what does that support really look like? And that's why organizations like Out for Justice, that we understand what individuals may be going through, and we can also educate family and loved ones about how to offer the best kind of support.
So the process for me with OFJ was to make a timeline of everything that was going on with me. Ms. Nicole helped me to better understand what the timeline, how the timeline could help me. I did that, and then I wrote a list of all the contact people that I had to stay in the loop with, because they needed to know everything I was doing to be able to get my custody back of my children. So my first visit to OFJ, my very first time there, when I got there, I left because I was very timid and didn't know what I was walking into. And so I reached out to someone by phone, and they helped assure me that, I would be okay and everything would be confidential. I also remember reaching out to Nicole about my housing situation, and immediately she referred me to someone, and I actually moved the next following day.
Well, Zelda wants to accomplish multiple different businesses because I'm really an entrepreneur out here in these streets. You get what I'm saying? Like, I want construction, roofing. I want a therapeutic group home with a daycare for young women who need guidance. And my daycare is going to be free because that's like one of the biggest problems that women have nowadays that have children. Like, they don't have daycare in order for them to go to work and make the money that they need to take care of their child. Like, and I watched my little cousin go through it, honestly. Like, she was like one of the biggest reasons like why I wanted to do it, like, honestly.
So about my journey in entrepreneurship, I am planning on opening a rec center for all God's children, and that way they would have somewhere to come to. They would have somebody to, just let go, let loose. It's not their home, but they can feel more like a safe place for them to come to. And I would have different things for them to do there. It's a prayer room, book room, game room. You can eat there, theater room, and also skills that you can learn as well, and mental health.
I just want us to keep getting bigger and better, reaching as many people as we can. It's one thing that we're in office every day offering support, but also when we take all the stories and testimonies of our members to Congress, and we're there in Annapolis and we're fighting for policy change, that's the biggest impact that Out for Justice can have. When we can help people not have to go through the barriers of expungement or child support or family separation, a women's pre-release, all those different issues that are so imperative to our community, that we're able to actually influence change.
What I'm certain of is that those opportunities will ensure that they'll continue to pour back in, and they'll continue to give service. And that's what this is about, right? That we learn what we know and we share what we know and what we've learned with our community. And so investment means a lot. Investment is just not throwing money at an organization. Investment also includes helping individuals educate themselves about the other components of being in service.
Well, as working for Out for Justice is a completely different thing. It's such a wonderful and rewarding career to be able to advocate for those individuals who are just like myself, who are either coming home or actually behind the walls still, and just knowing that there's someone who uniquely knows what they're going through. This entire organization is geared towards supporting people when they come home and people when they're behind the walls.
My title right now is housekeeping, but my goals are to move up. I've been networking with different departments, people heads, and hopefully after my 6 months I can go to another position. I've also been like selling travel. I'm a travel agent. I'm like the basketball mom at the school for the kids. So I enjoy that. 'Cause I would love for when my kids grow up, them to have a legacy and a way to provide for themselves.
How do you feel? Do you feel less nervous this time, or?
I'm just in my house. Like, this award was awarded to me for being a good member and following up and tapping into resources. And so it gives me inspiration. This one day changed my life because I share my story and I just feel less timid. OFJ helped me to get a lot of courage.
What's the award?
Member award, steadfast. And so everywhere I go, people know me now. Yeah.